guys, Chelsea Kenyon here, and I want to go over some troubleshooting, some frequently asked questions having to do with our LimeLight by Alcone Botanical Foundation. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this foundation. It's a wax base, and it's got 50% pigment in it, so you're going to find that you need very, very little. And when people come back to me saying, okay, well, this is what's going on, and I'm having this issue, it usually comes down to a very fixable, a fixable technique. It's usually just having to do with application or using too much or something like that. So let me go over some tips and techniques for this foundation so that you can get the best possible finish. Now, again, this is a wax-based foundation, so you need very, very little of it. Also, it warms to your skin tone, so when it comes in the package here, it is very, very dense. It's a very dense product, okay? And it's also, because it's wax, it needs to be kind of warmed to your skin in order for it to become very, very, workable onto the skin. Now, I've been using this for a while now, so I've hit pan, and this here is my powder, and this is our colorless powder, and this is used to set the foundation. So some common problems that people have come to me with are that they feel that the product can accentuate their pores. Now, we definitely don't want accentuation of pores. We want to cover up those things, right? Okay, so a couple issues with that. Your foundation might be the wrong color. Sometimes if we get too light of a foundation, it can actually highlight each individual pore. So, problem solved easily, just get a slightly darker color of foundation, or just use a bronzer over it just to deepen the color a little bit, especially if it's just in certain areas, like maybe right here if the pores are showing up a little bit more, or up here, or whatever the case may be. You can quickly just take a little bit of bronzer, dust it over the area just to deepen up the color. Problem solved. Okay, so another thing that people have come to me with is that they feel like maybe the foundation is too thick or too cakey. What? Our makeup looks like skin. So the problem is that you're simply using too much product, which honestly can be very easy to do because you're not used to having so much pigment in such a little amount of product. So let me show you about how much you're going to need to cover your whole face. And if you're using more than this, yes, you will end up with a cakey, kind of oily, thick look on your face, and we definitely don't want your face to look like it's got frosting on it. So I'm just going to use the back of my brush here to scrape a little bit out so you can see about how much you are going to need. That's probably even a little bit much. Okay, so now that I got this on the back of my hand, I'm going to do a little close-up here so you can see. I want you to see. See, it's not a thick dollop. Tiny, tiny, tiny amount. Tiny. If you're going into your makeup directly with your sponge, it literally takes, for me, about a half turn. If I'm using two colors, I'll do a quarter turn and a quarter turn. So let me show you what that looks like, okay? Because I think it's very important that we're not using too much of this stuff. Too much can be a problem. There is too much of a good thing when it comes to this foundation, okay? So what I do is I put my sponge in there and I just give it a twist like that. Done. This is enough to cover my entire face, okay? I have an entire application video. If you're interested in seeing that, I will link it below. But it's just a matter of going twisting, 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 twisting all over your face and really buffing it into the skin. Do resist the temptation to go back for more. You really don't need it. Okay, buff it all over, and then if you do find that you need a tiny, tiny bit more, I mean, just dab with your finger and then buff it back in because you don't want to overdo it because it will feel thick and heavy and cakey when you get too much of this on your face. Okay, so the other application method involves using our buffing brush. Check this guy out. Isn't he fun? So this method, you can if you want to, you can put your brush directly into your product, swirl it around, but here's the problem. You're probably going to pick up way too much product. So it's better, again, if you scrape a little bit out, put it on the back of your hand, and then work it on the back of your hand like this, onto your skin, back of your hand, onto your skin, and you will see, look at how much is still on there, and you can keep picking it up. Keep picking it up. Keep picking it up. It doesn't look like much, but trust me, there is a lot on there, okay? If you want to thin it out a little bit, if you still feel like maybe, or if you need more moisture, if you have really dry skin, you can add a little drop of our must-do facial oil right into it, just like that. Mix it up and apply it from there. And one other thing about that, dry skin. Our foundation is so highly pigmented. If you've got dry skin all over, the foundation can actually highlight the edges of those dry skin patches and, you know, make them a little bit more visible. So it is very, very important that you are properly exfoliating and moisturizing on a regular basis to avoid that. So if you're just now starting this regime and maybe your face still is a little bit dry because the products haven't had time to kick in yet or whatever, that would be a great time for you to add your must-do facial oil, half a drop or a drop right into the foundation on the back of your hand. I would not advise putting the must-do directly into the foundation. That could cause some problems and it could affect you know, the pigmentation, and you know, you might get too much oil or too much pigment. So definitely mix, you know, right there fresh on the back of your hand for whatever your intention is to use for that day. So if you have the sponge and you're using the sponge and it's not working for you and you feel like, you know, it's not getting the finish you want, try the brush. If you're trying the brush and it's not giving you the finish you like, try the sponge. This foundation is so pigmented and so different than anything you've probably ever used before. So there is a little bit of kind of like, you got to figure out your application groove. When I first got this foundation, and I've used professional grade foundation before because I've been doing hair and makeup forever, but I never really used it on myself too much. It was more just using it on my, you know, clients and for hair shows and stuff like that for the models that were going to be walking on the stage. So when I started using this, I found that I was applying too much. I put it on and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so heavy and cakey. I don't know what I'm going to do. And no matter what I did, I just felt like it was just too much. And I finally found my technique, and that is doing the 1/4 to a 1/2 turn directly into the foundation with a dry blenderful. Try the blenderful. I keep pointing down here because that's where it's at. Try the blenderful dry. Try it damp. There's no wrong way, people. It's makeup, it's an art. So try it damp, try it however you want. Dry, damp, whatever. And also, don't be afraid to powder. Our powder, even though it is a no color powder, and it has no color to it, and it's white, it can go on any skin tone, and it does not affect the color of the foundation. So that's fantastic, because now we don't have to pick another color. This color goes with everything. So what you're going to do with the powder, it's a little bit different because you don't want to just like fly it all over your face. So you're going to pick it up a little bit and you're going to press it into your face. And that is what is going to really work the powder into the foundation and set it very nicely for the rest of the day. So if you're having any kind of like oil breakthrough or anything throughout the day that, that maybe you normally wouldn't get, just do a little bit more powder, and you can feel free, tuck this in your purse, you know, powder throughout the day if you need to. But I find that when I do a good job of really getting that powder onto my skin and really making sure that it's being pressed in, I don't have the oil breakthrough. And let me tell you, I was actually having oil breakthrough even with just a foundation powder alone, like the powder foundation. I don't have that with this product now that I've nailed down my technique. So make sure that you are trying several different ways until you find your kind of, you know, perfect formula, your perfect method to apply your foundation. So don't be afraid to use this powder and you know, really work it into the skin. And when you do this, when you use very little of the foundation and really work the powder into the skin, you know, it looks very natural. It looks very smooth and nice. Now, here's another thing. If you have a lot of stuff you're covering up, rosacea, blemishes, scars, whatever it may be, and you probably are just going to need to use a concealer at that point. You're not going to want to keep packing on the foundation because it is a heavier foundation. So get the good base going first. Get your base all over, and then go back with a brush. And you can try it with the foundation first. Go back with a brush, a stiff brush. Actually, let me grab one real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so you're going to grab one of these kind of stiff brushes and you're going to go in and just grab a little bit of the foundation and then put it over whatever spots you need, and then you can take the sponge or the brush and buff it into place. And that's when you want to bring in the concealer as well. Rather than continually adding more layers and more layers and more layers of the foundation, strategically use the brush and the foundation or a concealer to spot treat just those areas, so you're not adding layers upon layers upon layers. Okay, so anyways, I think that if you just take a little bit of time and try these different techniques, try these different methods, and work out your perfect formula for your foundation application, you are going to absolutely fall in love. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a kind of a user thing where you have to really work it out and figure it out. So just keep trying, and I promise you, once you nail the application that works for you, oh my gosh, seriously, your face is going to look amazing. Okay? All right, guys, good luck.